to put on another session about how community foundations can implement giving circles. So we're just so excited to be in partnership. This has been wonderful. Our team just raves about how great of partners you are. So thanks so much for that. We have community foundations and organizations across the nation joining us today, and we are so glad you're among them. So thanks for taking time out of your day to learn with us and be in community with us today. Just want to do a few shout outs and thank yous to the team at Philanthropy Together for organizing this partnership and this webinar today. Sarah Lomelin, who you'll hear from, the CEO of Philanthropy Together. Isis Krause, say hello. Their Chief Strategy Officer, and Ty Wilson, their Senior Director of Community. So thank you, and we're so happy to be with you. So a little bit about CFLeads. I hope many of you are familiar with us, but we're a national network of community foundations committed to community leadership. So what's beyond the grant making? How do we make our work happen in communities across the country? And basically our network is hundreds of community foundations that come together to strengthen their community leadership muscle, to share field innovations, and to tackle the key issues of our time. And look, there are a lot of issues that need tackling right now, and we think community foundations are a great place to do that. So we're in community with community foundations to help you do your work better and help you become more effective at doing your community leadership work. We want to help you build strong communities and advance effective practices, share knowledge with each other, and galvanize action on the things that are going on right now, from economic mobility to affordable housing, climate change, all the things. We want to give you the resources to do that work even better. We have a few programs that you can always check out on our website for individual leaders that want to build community in peer cohorts. And we have several topic-related cohorts of learning that go around economic mobility and many other topics. And you can find that on our website. And we would love to be in community with you. So hope to see you at a CFLeads event in the future. So now it's my pleasure to kick off this webinar today with Philanthropy Together, collective giving models, an undeniable upward trend in the field of philanthropy. We hear it all the time from our partners. And so when we get to do a webinar like this today, it really helps share that knowledge from field experts. So many community foundations have engaged in this form of giving. And we know that community foundations are really well positioned to implement the collective giving model in their own communities. So now it's my pleasure to turn it over to our experts today at Philanthropy Together. And I'll turn it over to Sarah Lomelin, their CEO. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you, Megan. Hi, everybody. We're so excited to be here with you. It's going to be 75 minutes of, dynamism and activities and, learning. And yes, as Megan said, we want you to fall in love with this type of giving. So my name is Sarah Lomelin. I'm the CEO of Philanthropy Together. You're going to hear from Isis Krause, our Chief Strategy Officer, from Ty Wilson, our Senior Director of Community. Philanthropy Together, we're a global field catalyst to grow and strengthen the collective giving movement. We, tell stories about this type of giving. We really train hundreds of leaders like you, and we will be with you not only for this, two-part workshop, but along, for your whole journey into starting giving circles and be successful with giving circles inside your community foundations. What are we going to be doing in these two sessions? And just a reminder that it's two-part. The one on June 26th is the second part of this. It's not a repeat. So you cannot miss that one too. We're going to talk about what is collective giving, why does it matter? We're going to do that today. And also, how do you start your giving circle in your community foundation? And then next week, we're going to talk about what does hosting a giving circle look like in practice. So we're going to give you a lot of, inside information about people that are doing it in the field, and how can you get support? How can you support your giving circle journey? And we're going to have, yes, a guest speaker. Thank you, Isis. Okay, so I am going to pass it to Ty because we have a lot of information to give you. Take it away, Ty.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, so let's level set, y'all. What is collective giving? Although I feel like I'm preaching to the choir, I'm gonna preach anyway. I don't want to make any assumptions about where y'all at in terms of the model itself. And so the basic collective giving, y'all, is not anything new. It's not even American. Folks have been organizing to take care of one another for centuries. Collectivism, it's rooted in us, for us, by us, right? It's rooted in the people. And so when you think about how people have gathered to take care of one another, which essentially is the definition of philanthropy, it's the love of humankind, right? It's rooted in community and justice and collective action. We've been doing this, taking care of one another and addressing our community needs. And so I just love that we love that collective giving now in its more modern approach, with giving circles as being one form of expression of collective giving. But that's what collective giving is about. And so as we think about collective giving, the big mama umbrella, there's all different types of how people are taking care of one another, y'all. These are some of the forms, all different many expressions of collective giving, from collaborative funds, you might have heard of those, employee resource groups, y'all. There's political giving circles, there's fundraising circles, there's mutual aid societies. All of them are up under the umbrella of collective giving. And giving circles are one expression of that. And that's where we're going to center our time in today. And so what is the giving circle, though? So a giving circle at its core, basic, definition is when a group of people, they gather around shared values, right? So many people come together, everybody give. And the giving that is not just your treasure. It means our time, our talents, our testimony, our ties. It's those 5 T's. And then we decide collectively on where we want to exploit those, to allocate those resources into the community. And that is amplified impact, y'all. And so a giving circle essentially takes all of our minds, our talents, our financial abilities very seriously to make up for a more collaborative and social experience. And what that looks like is us, a generous group of people who are acting more intentionally, strategically, and thoughtfully around our philanthropy. So that is what a giving circle is. And so there's values, those, what I just said, that structure, people come together to gather, they are really embedded in the values of a giving circle. And so the first thing, anchoring theme and values of a giving circle is when people come together. That looks like creating a sense of belonging with one another. That's the value of that, right? The second one is discourse, right? So we come together, we then talk. There's a lot of talking in giving circles. They talk, we learn together across those differences to learn about the issues and deeper learning about the organizations that we want to support. And then, y'all, something magical happens. We start trusting one another. After all that conversation, us getting together, talking about all these issues and amazing organizations we're learning about in our community, we are building trust with one another. And then collectively, we decide where we want to utilize those resources and put them out into the community. And what that looks like in result, like I said, is amplified impact. But a lot of giving circles don't just stop there. They act in abundance even beyond the grants for other ways and how they can support the grantee partners in the community. We have an amazing tool. What is agivingcircle.com? It's a very good website. We created it just for y'all. Y'all check it out. It's super interactive, very easy. Y'all can share it out with others, but it really explains to the T what a giving circle is. And we feel that, y'all, there is a recent article that came out about giving circles and Axos. Maybe somebody on my team can drop it. Giving circles are like the fastest growing form of philanthropy right now. And so we really feel that Giving Circles is meeting us right here in this moment with all this change happening. Y'all see the changes. There's changes happening within y'all organization. Many of y'all have changes in leadership and strategic plan changes, right? Our world is changing. Hello, like every single day, there's something going on in our world. And our communities are changing. They're becoming more diverse and along all different kinds of diversity in terms of age, diversity, gender, ethnicity. And so we feel that Giving Circles can meet us in this moment with all of this change that's happening in our world. Okay, I'm
And
gonna put this on to, oh, go ahead, Sada.
no, I'm
Yeah,
taking
no,
over
this
this
is the
because
good stuff. This is the
this
good
is
stuff.
the
So I'll pass it on to who? Isis, you should share this about the research for sure.
no, I'm sharing this.
Oh, sorry, Sada, you do.
So, um, yes, as I is saying, this is really, really, really a powerful movement. So we're going to put a link for our latest report, but between 2017 and 2023, research saw that there are nearly 4,000 giving circles in the US that have mobilized 370,000 people from all ages, all ethnicities, all backgrounds. And that powerful movement has donated $3.1 billion. So it is not, small dollars. It is not just, cute ladies sitting around the kitchen table. No, there are, some giving circles like that. But if you aggregate everybody, the powerful is extremely powerful. The movement is extremely powerful. Sorry, English as a second language. But the beauty is that there is incredible potential for growth, right? If you look at this map, I mean, there are states where there are many giving circles, but look in the center of the country. There's so much potential to grow. And community foundations are the perfect home for a given circle. Some of the stats that we saw in our research, next slide, please, is that 84% of given circles have more than half of the membership are women. This is basically a women-led movement. However, it doesn't mean that men cannot get involved. We also see an uprise on men's giving circles. The locality and why, community foundations are perfect for giving circles. 93% of groups draw their membership from a single locale or state. So this is a perfect way for community foundations to really find those small grassroots nonprofits in your community that you maybe not even know about. And maybe one of the Giving Circle members will, surface to you. So 77% of giving circles are, they have a common affiliation or affinity base. So it's also a great way to, open the ecosystem and the community of your community foundation. If you are trying to build, a stronger community or supporters around your foundation, this is a great way to do it. And in this report, this is the very first time that we did a member level survey. And really being part of a giving circle is good for mental health, for the well-being of members of the giving circle. People feel that they have been able to live their values, that they can live their life with purpose, and they have this sense of belonging. And especially, at a moment like this, when there's so many people that feel isolated, there's so much polarization, being part of a collective giving group, it's something that it's good for, for individuals, good for the collective, good for the community. Really why we are, so passionate about giving circles is because we know that all the money in the world is not going to save us, but beloved communities will. We really see giving circles as perfect labs of, civic engagement and just, a place for people to practice democracy. As Ty was mentioning, one of the big parts of a given circle is to discourse, to engage in debate with one another. And many giving circles are cross-race, cross-class. You have people from different walks of life getting together and, rallying behind the cause. So we're going to put here, there is a QR for the research. So you can take a look afterwards. There's a lot of great stats. And I'm going to pass it to Isis to get it started on, the workshop meaty part.
Thank you, Sada. Thank you, Ty. If anyone has other questions about any of this research, we really want to make this an interactive webinar. So feel free to put those in the chat. And as I'm sharing out about the how, Ty and Sada can share more about some of the research that you see here. And go to the collective.giving site and download this report. It's really incredible and has lots of juicy tidbits that will help you in your journey. So how do I start a giving circle at my community foundation? What we're going to do next is really get into the nuts and bolts. We built this curriculum off of two things. There was a research report in 2016 that was specifically about hosted giving circles and all of the mechanics of that and what people were doing across the landscape. About 40% of giving circles are hosted in some way. In addition to that, we did really deep dive interviews with 12 community foundations across the country who had been leading giving circles successfully for years and years and years. And we said, what was your secret sauce? Like, how did you do this? We have also heard the horror stories that I'm sure many of you heard around how long it takes or how much staff capacity, all of those things. And so we wanted to dig into the success cases and distill that down into what you all can learn to do this successfully in your context. What that led us to were these 6 different things that you need to define your hosting vision, the mission and alignment, and your own outcomes and expectations as a host. You then have to think about the actual design of the circle. What is the entity that you're actually talking about, from the focus and the size and the financial contribution, how the grant making happens, what the values are. Then this is hosting a circle is really about that relationship. How much is the circle actually integrated into the work that you're doing? How much investment are you going to put into the circle? What kind of supports and staffing are you offering? All of this only happens if you have really great circle leadership. If you don't want this to turn into something where your staff is spending all of their effort and time doing this, you need the agency and the leadership of the circle itself, not so that it's a project of your work, but it's coming from the circle. So we'll talk about what that looks like. And then the last 2 pieces are a little bit in the nitty-gritties, but what's the back-end infrastructure? What kind of data are you tracking? The technology uses, communication and the like, and then long-term impact. What, how long will the giving circle last in your context? Sada shared that stat around the average member joins for 7.5 years. So this really is a long-term play. So those are the things that we're going to go over the course of both sessions. Today, we're going to cover the first 3. Next week, we're going to hear from a speaker from a community foundation who's been running it successfully and talk about that green bubble, the 4th one, and we'll give you some further resources on the purple and the red after that as well. So those successful building blocks that I was talking about, here's what they are. Number 1 is clarity, that you really have to be crystal clear. It sounds really easy, but you have to be crystal clear on the expectations between you as the host entity, and we'll share these slides afterwards, but feel free to take notes, between the host and the giving circle, that those are both organizational entities that have to come together and agree. Clarity is kindness in those things. And so really important to focus on that. Number 2 is consistency, that, a lot of the troubles that we've seen is that folks have one giving circle and then all of a sudden they want to grow till 10, right? And that's really hard to do that sort of growth. Or sometimes they, they do efforts for 2 months and then they have a staffing change and then they don't do anything for 10 months. So consistency is really important. And that's what helps build the trust between the circle and the host. Number 3 is agency, what I was just mentioning, that this is about leaning into the passion and the leadership of the group itself. If you all want to run this as a program of your community foundation, that is not what this is. If you're hosting a giving circle, this is just as much about the circle itself really, leading and being their own entity, and you all are providing that back-end hosting infrastructure. We all talk about power up and down today in philanthropy, and so this is really important to keep that front of mind. Number 4 is equity, that we know that there are so many harms in philanthropy. And sometimes when giving circles come together, it's with everyday individuals who don't know all about the ins and outs of how grant making and philanthropy operate. We know so many circles that with all good intentions start with really onerous processes because they think that's the right thing to do. And so that's part of your role also as a host institution to help them on that learning curve overall to help transform philanthropy. And then number 5 is necessity. You are not alone in this journey. Ty is here to have a free coaching call with any of you at any time over the coming years. So this really is about you doing the work that you have to do, but look to the many other resources that exist out there for others to help you on this journey. We have a whole website with resources and many things that we can share out in the chat. If you have questions about any of these, let me know as well. So decision point number 1, we're going to talk about why do you want to start or continue giving circles at your host institution, and how will they connect to your mission? So in terms of that, we've developed this framework that has 4 different pieces. So the ways that you can think about alignment are purpose, people, programs, and position. So as a community foundation or another host entity, we really encourage you to think about the deep purpose of why your host organization is looking to do this work. How does that align at the deepest, most fundamental level with your mission as an organization? Is this about contributing to the culture of philanthropy? Is it about showcasing the direct, focus of your grant making or your mission? Is this a bigger aim towards democratizing philanthropy? Or is this about shifting donors in your location to be more focused on equity-based practices? There's so many high-level purpose-based pieces that are really important to consider. The second one is people. Many folks get into giving circles for the people, right? As Ty was mentioning, this is about people coming together. And so this is about building relationships with others in your community. This might be about increasing the diversity of your donors across many different fronts. This might be bringing in more peripheral donors closer into the work that you're doing and building out that supporter base that you all have. From a programs perspective, this might be around how you further your actual grant making work as a community foundation in the communities that you operate. We know of so many giving circles that are hosted that help the community foundation find new and smaller grassroots groups that the community foundation itself would never have known about. And so how can this help on your programmatic level? And then the last is position, that this work can also help you increase visibility for you as a host organization and the work that you're doing in this field. You might want to pilot participatory grant making options or other bigger strategic shifts, as Sada and Ty were talking about, right? Like, we're in this special moment right now as a philanthropy sector, and giving circles can help you and be part of that shift. So these are the 4 things we suggest you think about. What we highly suggest you don't do is say, oh, a giving circle, great, that's going to be a fundraising body for my community foundation. Yes, many giving circles that are hosted bring in tons of money. We know examples where, there are giving circles that grow over time and bring in hundreds of thousands of dollars through the community foundation. But that's not why you should go into this work. You should go into this work because of the purpose and the people and the programmatic ability and the positioning. If you all have questions, please, we have a lot to get through, but as things come up, please put them in the chat. The second decision is, what does success look like? What benefits and outcomes are you expecting? And we put this right up front because we all have to be honest about that. If you're doing any new initiative that requires, board approval and your CEO buy-in, you have to be really clear about what success looks like. And there's so many ways that you can think about success. This can be, and it ties to those 4 Ps. It can be about expanding knowledge of grassroots groups that I was talking about, increasing leadership on a specific issue area, impact evaluation outcomes, leadership and board buy-in around this work. It can be about increasing civic engagement. We have so much new research around how giving circles increase civic engagement of the members involved. So there's so many reasons why, but really name for yourself what those expectations are. We have a whole additional resource that we can put in the chat, or you can find on our website, around this business model alignment with your community foundation. There are many different kinds of community foundations. Some of you might be in rural locations with 3 staff members. Others of you might have, hundreds and hundreds of millions under asset, and you have, 50 staff members. And so really figuring out what kind of an institution you are and what kind of giving circle hosting program will align with your business model is also really, really important. So enough blabbing at you. We're going to go straight into our first activity, which is to actually have you all prioritize for yourself your top goals and success outcomes. We're not going into breakouts. Please don't jump off the Zoom. This will be, private, personal time. But we wanted to make this really real for you and have you, instead of being in listening mode, have you be in active mode around what this work actually looks like. And so what you're going to see, I'm going to share out a link to get you all in here. And what you're going to see on the first slide looks like this. And so all of those different reasons of why you might want to go in there, thinking about those 4 Ps, are listed on this slide. There's also space to write in what your mission is as a community foundation or host, and start articulating for yourself our giving circles will. And think about those 4 P's that we talked about. Purpose, position, people, programs, right? Like, what are you really hoping to get out of this? So when you get into this document, I'll share the link right now. It is a Google slide show. And when you get in there, I'm actually going to switch over my screen here. When you get in there, it should look like this. I see some of you trickling in, and this will be a private document for each of you. So what I want you to do is click on the file button here in the top left and go to make a copy, and then entire presentation. And then what that will do is you can rename it whatever you would like, test renaming, literally doesn't matter. You click make a copy, and that'll create a new version of this that literally only you have access to. So feel free to take notes, mess this up, do whatever you want in here. And then what I want you to do from there is take just a few quiet minutes to start this. You're not going to complete it, but I want you to start getting in that mode. As you go to this first slide around all these things, is you can, highlight the whole slide, and maybe you're going to turn it green and you say, yes, that is one of the things that I really want to focus on. Or maybe you turn it red and you say, no, that doesn't matter as much to me. Start writing in the mission, start writing in some of that giving circle language. We'll take just 3 or 4 quiet minutes. Kelsey will play some quiet music, and then we'll open it up for questions. What actually went through your mind as you were doing this activity? How did that help you think through questions or problems or challenges? It says unable to open the file. Are others having problems? Thanks, Joanna, for anyone else having challenges? No problem here. Okay. Joanna, if you put your email in here, I'll just download it as a PowerPoint quickly for you, and we'll email it to you directly. Okay, so Kelsey will play some music. Let's take 5 quiet minutes, maybe 4 or 5 minutes, and then we'll come back for some questions.
Isis, if you could take your screen down.
Yes.
Okay, great. Give me 1 second, y'all, and we'll get the music going.
Let's open it up now to the group. What came up for you as you were actually doing this activity, which it helps you take it from the theoretical to in your own context? Anyone want to unmute and share a reflection or a question that rose for you? Don't be shy.
All right, I'll just say, I was just thinking like, oh, well, what is the amount that someone has to give annually, right? And I wasn't sure. Is it 5,000? Is it more? Is it less? Like what feels sort of important to the donor? You can give out as enough. And I wonder if some giving circles just say they start at 5,000. If 3 years later, do they move to 10,000 as they get it going? Or do you usually sort of say, okay, it's 5,000, you stick with that?
Good question, Amy. Yeah, that's the whole next activity we'll do in the yellow section. So I'm so glad you're raising that, because that's exactly, yes, these are the exact things that we want you to be thinking about. Any other reflections on this blue purpose-based activity around your why? Autumn, did you unmute?
Yeah, I'd be happy to share. I'm super brand new to our community foundation in my role. So I am definitely feeling very idealistic and excited about the power of philanthropic giving. One of the reasons that I'm very interested in leveling up our giving circle activity in Idaho is the opportunity for more Idahoans to participate in philanthropy so that it feels like every Idahoan can take pride in their community and connect. So that's kind of a big part of my why and why I want to present this opportunity to my leadership, but to create a model that's accessible to all Idahoans. 26% of our state is new, has moved, our state population has moved to our state in the last 10 years, and I want them to feel like they have access to feeling like they belong.
Love that.
Love it.
Awesome.
I just want to say that I love that you have even unpacked the data or examine your community. That is so very helpful when doing this exercise, right? just, I don't know, I'm just a data person, and I think data really can help us inform our why, all of us, you know, and tap into our community in that way. So I just love that you married that with your very new and refreshing energy towards this model.
Yeah, and Autumn also, giving circles are the perfect way to create a sense of belonging for newcomers. I spent 8 years at the Latino Community Foundation in San Francisco, and we got so many newcomers, like literally people that were just new to the Bay Area, and they were Googling, like, where do I get, to be with more Latinos? So people new to the area, it's a great way to create groups and create community.
Nancy?
So I would say the reason I'm intrigued by the idea of the giving circles is that our part of the state of Minnesota is frequently skipped over in the bigger grant making entities, and our community foundation is rather small in the whole scheme of things as well. And I feel it's because in our area, we have what I would identify as jumbo philanthropists. And we're a small community, so they stick out like a sore thumb. And I think that there's this sense that my $500 isn't going to make a difference because so-and-so is giving $30 million to build a concert hall. And to try and inspire philanthropy and generosity in everyone. So that's why I'm intrigued by it.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think why we like doing this activity first is that if you can pin down the 3 or 4 things out of all of those blue boxes that rise to the surface for you, that can be your North Star as you make the hard decisions around, the who and the how and the where and the how and all of the details. So we really encourage you to start at that level. We're going to go on to the next activity and set of resources, but please keep your reflections and ideas coming in the chat. So number 2 out of our 6 big blue bubbles here. So number 2 is the circle design. This is what, I forget your name, but what the other woman was sharing around, how much money, how big is the circle, right? How do people contribute? How does that grant making happen? And so we wanted to walk you through some of that. So decision point 3, how will your giving circles originate? How much control do you hope to have and expect over your circles? The reason we say this first off is that there's a few different models that giving circles who are hosted, how they come into being. So one on the left here is fully community generated, community led, right? It's a circle who might be looking for a host organizations, but really from more of a fiscal standpoint, that they're looking for a place to park their funding, to maybe get some supports, but they already have the circle, or it's a leader who has an idea and it's really coming from the community itself. All the way on the right-hand side, you have the more host-driven and more prescriptive circles. We don't see this a lot with community foundations. There are other kinds of hosted groups at, at corporations or other kinds of entities. Some big nonprofits host giving circles where it's really directed around what their grant making will look like, what the issue areas might be, but it's very much host controlled. And then, as you can imagine, there is a huge gray area in the middle where you can co-develop this in all kinds of ways. That's where we tend to see and tend to suggest things land. That of course you need and you want community leadership at the core. This again is not a program of your community foundation. This is something bigger and bolder that you're offering in and alongside the community. But it's really important for you to be honest with yourself and with your leadership around how much quote unquote control you're thinking about in this context. The the fourth decision point out of all of these that we'll talk about is how will the giving circle actually take shape? What is the size? What is the giving level? What is the membership and the focus and the model? There's 5 common guiding characteristics of hosted circles. So the first is membership affinity. So this might be where you have an all women circle, an all LGBTQ circle, an all Black circle, right? There's many different ways that an affinity-based giving circle can come together. It can be based on demographics. It can be based on professions. It can be based on geography. There's so many different ways that can happen. The second is based on issue area or region. So perhaps you have a group that's really focused on, just grassroots grant making, that all of the groups that they fund will be under, let's say, $500,000, right? Really grassroots groups in the area. And what does that look like? That also connects to the fourth one here of the grantee organization size or focus. The third one is family or internal community, that sometimes giving circles get started or are hosted because it is a family that is coming together. Maybe it's an individual donor that you have that has a DAF at your community foundation who is looking to get more involved with their family and do more of a collective giving model than just themselves. It might also be you have a set of volunteers that are coming together anyway for some work of your community foundation. How are you able to leverage some of the other work you have out there? Grantee size, I talked about that a little bit. It can also be a focus area. And then there's many different giving circle models out there that you can also consider. Our new research report has a whole typology section with 5 different archetypes of different giving circles, and we have those listed here. This is helpful, I think, because it shows the many standard classic forms of what a giving circle can be. The first one we're calling Women Giving Big. This tends to be women's based groups. They tend to give more, right? Like $1,000 or $5,000 all together. The circles themselves also tend to be big, 50 women coming together, 100 women coming together. That money leveraging turns into quite a significant check that goes out the door. And there's hundreds of examples of these. The network Philanos runs a lot of, or helps support a lot of this kind of archetype. The second one we call crowd granting networks. This is a classic form that it's more smaller dollars coming in. It's mostly people giving, $100 a quarter or $25 a month. It's a smaller overall amount, but they're really large in size. Sort of minimum 100 people are coming together, so you still have that leveraging factor. Belonging through identity groups. There are so many beautiful examples of this. Taisha here on the call is the chair of Heritage Giving Fund, which is an all-Black women's circle focused on women and girls issues in Dallas. So that's an example of a very specific identity base coming together, really finding that sense of belonging and purpose through the group itself. And Ty can definitely share more about that throughout this webinar and on a one-on-one with you all. The fourth archetype we all adore here at Philanthropy Together, which are the groups that are really in this to actively advocate for social change. This is not charity-based work. This is about beyond the money into the other 5 T's, right? Activating your ties and your testimony and your talent beyond just your treasure. And there's incredible groups also here that maybe Ty and Sada and Kelsey can share in the chat that do that organizing for social change. And then the last one for you to consider is that not all giving circles are long-term efforts, that 7.5 years example that we gave earlier. Some giving circles start as what we call a pop-up giving circle. It's a one-off experience, or it's an event-based thing. Maybe you have an annual gala coming up and you want to do something new that really puts out your purpose and your position in the community around community and collective grant making. And you can integrate a giving circle, collective giving experience into that work. So what we're trying to show here is that there's no right answer. There are literally hundreds of every single one of these yellow bubbles on the screen. And we hope that gives you comfort in knowing that you can't mess this up. There's no right or wrong way. This is about the group of people itself that are coming together and what they want to do, what they want to see, and having that agency and that ownership. If you all have questions about any of these archetypes, please put them in the chat. Some specific examples here. I'm going to pass it to Sada and Ty to share through the first 2 rows here.
Thank you, Isis. Yeah, as I was telling you, I spent many years at the Latino Community Foundation. And here are, some examples of specific giving circles. The Latino Giving Circle Network that has about 22 circles. One of them is the Peninsula Latina Giving Circle. And full disclosure, I'm part of that giving circle. But it's a group of Latinas. We're about 30 women. And we support Latino-led grassroots organizations in San Mateo and Santa Clara County. Why so specific, right? We wanted to really, build a pipeline of leaders. That is why we wanted to focus on not only Latino serving, but Latino-led grassroots nonprofits. The organizations are in between, 500,000, maximum $1 million in budget. We give a minimum of $1,000 a year. And I said a minimum because we always put a floor, not a ceiling. We don't want to leave money on the table. There's some members that, some years they give $5,000, and with the extra four, we're able to bring younger voices into our giving circle. So, kind of giving like a scholarship for younger members that will give them 500, and we will match the other 500. Our grant size is about 15,000, and we do about 3 grants per year. And we pay 10% of the money that we raise to the Latino Community Foundation to support our program. Actually, they just announced to us that they are going to waive that fee, because going back to the blue bubbles and the why, yes, the why of the Latino Community Foundation is to inspire philanthropy by and for Latinos. So they see the giving circles as, a core program of them. So they are going to stop charging that 10% for running the program. So it's great for us. Ty.
Better. I literally am gonna I'm gonna have to use that to negotiate some fees for our fiscal sponsor. That's so good. I love that. Okay, so Heritage, my sisters, my babies. Heritage Giving Fund, we're based in Dallas. We are a group of Black women. We are a little bit, actually, we're a little bit more than 52 members now and growing. So we provide grants to very small grassroots organizations that are majority led by a Black woman who serve women and girls in North Texas. And so we have 2 different type of donation. Actually, we have 3 now because we added a student level. We have 2 different types of donation levels, 500 and 1,000. And then we recently added on the student level for them to just pay as they kind of like pay as you can, because we're trying to get more young people to join our circle as well. And then our average grant size, we've been grant making since 2017 when we started during Black Philanthropy Month. And our average grant sizes are between $3,000 to $7,000. And we have traditionally given out between 5 to 7 grants on an annual basis. I will say though, I want to share with you all that Heritage, we actually, for our first 5 years, we were hosted by the Texas Women's Foundation. They were a phenomenal hosting agent for us and really helped us to get off the ground. We always give our flowers to the Texas Women's Foundation because they were so pivotal with providing resources to us, like meeting rooms and including us in their newsletters and really amplifying us as a budding giving circle, because we didn't have a Philanthropy Together back then. We didn't have an organization that showed us all the steps on how to get started. And so they were a thought partner with us. They truly were a partner with us, and they charged us 5% at that time. Now, in trying to be fully aligned with like who we are and with our goals of investing in Black women, we're now fiscally sponsored by More Philanthropy, and they charge a little bit more than that. But Saturday, I'm gonna have to go back and negotiate and say some words on what you all were doing at the Latino Community Foundation. And then Isis, do you want to share about Holly's circle? Or
yeah, I'm happy to. So Holly Lee is a godmother of all of this work as well. She leads the Asian Women Giving Circle in New York City, focused on AAPI communities at the intersection of art and justice. They have a really big group. They have about 300 people in their giving circle, but 20 of them are in a steering committee. And so that's another way that you can think about this, right? That there are you can only have decision-making happen with so many people. And so the 20 number is more similar to Sada's circle or even Ty's circle, but then they have many, many more people who come, once a year for a gathering, or who still submit their votes online, but maybe aren't part of the deep grant making processes. They have a $2,500 give get for their steering committee, and then many others come in outside of that. And they also give a number of grants every year, and they are hosted at the Ms. Foundation and also has a 10% hosting fee. So hopefully this gives you 3 real life examples of hosted giving circles circles out there in the community. And also goes to show that there's no right or wrong way of doing this. So if you saw that number and the woman who is sharing that, is $5,000 the minimum, right? If you see these numbers and you're like, oh, that's not going to be possible, our minimum would have to be 5,000, that's going to have serious implications for who is in the circle, what that circle looks like, how much money is being pooled, how big it is. And so our next activity, we're going to go right back into that, is to look at 3 different things. What is your ideal dream for what this looks like, right? This is only your side of that dream. Remember, this is not a program. You don't get to decide all these things, but you can write for yourself what in an ideal way would this look like? And all the way on the left or on the way on the right here, what does the firm know that if it's under this amount, if it's focused on this issue, if it's a certain grantee profile, that's just a firm no for who your community foundation is or your host organization and what your board is aligned with or what your mission is about. And then in the middle, what would be a feasible range within there? And so go back into your same documents. This is now on slide 2, and just take some notes. Just take another 3 or 4 minutes. Kelsey will play a song again and start writing out, what might that membership profile be? How big might that circle be? What might that issue or cause focus look like, or certain values? How much money would you ideally be hoping would come from that many members? And what might be a hosting fee? What would the grant sizes then look like? And what is that profile? You don't have to fill out every box, but use this as a way to start thinking both dreamland and firm no land and everything else in between. We'll put on a song again, take another 3 or 4 minutes. And if you have questions about the activity, feel free to put them in the chat. Thank you, Ty. This is page 3 of the activity sheets that you all have. So you don't have to make a new copy. You can just go straight back into the document you already made a copy of and just scroll down to page or slide 3.
And something that I want to mention, to Amy's point about the $5,000, $10,000, yes, of course, things will change, but just for you to know that there are giving circles that have a minimum of 5,000, 10,000 or more. So everything depends on, the size and who will be part of the giving circle.
Let's come back together, and same thing, would love to hear any questions folks had, or maybe a reflection or two, and then we'll go to our 3rd and final of the 6 bubbles for today. Anyone want to unmute and share?
All right, I just have one question. I think it was on this one, but I think you were saying that the community foundation doesn't necessarily, I don't know if the word is dictate what the giving circle will do. Can it say it's going to do X, Y, or you're saying it should be collaboratively decided? Does that make sense? About
Good question. Devil's in the details on that one. So I think it's that, if you all want to be more prescriptive about it, just know that going in and have expectations of how much staff time and energy it's going to take from you. Whereas what we recommend is if you want this to be a program that maybe in the end you're hosting 3 or 5 giving circles at your community foundation, you really need to lean into the agency and the ownership and the leadership of the circle itself. And to do that, you can't come in and say, it has to be this, right? It has to really come from the community and be what the community itself is looking to do as part of that circle. And so that's the rub. It's not that you can't, it just depends on how you're trying to run or how you're trying to host this circle and what that actually looks like.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Maybe one more reflection or comment or question.
I just have a comment, Isis. Just this exercise I put in the chat on like how I've had folks start with like the firm no's, and that was because this is a great activity for. There are some community foundations that have had circles previously or something like that, and they wanted to like do something different. So this allowed them to kind of pull out. All right, well, we did this before and we would like to do this differently or so it helps. It's an activity that can meet everyone where you are in your journey, whether you have your community foundation had previously had a circle, your brand spanking new to the concept, thinking big and dreaming big. But that has been helpful of like, okay, I know for a fact we don't want to do another youth-led giving circle or something like that. And then that kind of helps you to kind of narrow in your focus that way.
Thanks, Ty. All right, we'll keep putting your reflections in the chat. Oh, this was somebody.
Rebecca, did you?
Hi, I'm really curious about how different organizations have landed on their host fees.
Really good question. That also goes back to the size of the group, how much money is being pooled. You know, if it's a group where they're giving, let's say $100 a quarter, $400 a year, $10,000 overall, it's, you know, the common crowd granting model, then you all have to sort of look at that and decide, is 10% of that sort of worth it enough for you and worth it enough for the circle? Like there has to be some middle ground there where it doesn't feel sort of transactional at the end, right? Especially if you're putting extra stuff into this. And also, we know a lot of circles that very intentionally from the start have helped their members understand that this work doesn't happen for free. Infrastructure support doesn't happen for free. And it's really important that maybe in addition to their $400 a year that they give to the actual grant making, another 50 goes to the host or, you know, to the circle leadership itself to help, you know, pay for pizza at an upcoming grant meeting or all of the other office supplies or things that the circle might use. And so people being really intentional about that. We do often see the 5 to 10% of a percentage-based fee. That is the most classic one that we've seen across the community foundation landscape.
And also, Rebecca, some community foundations have like a menu of services depending on the staff time that is going to be devoted for the circle, right? Like if, you know, your team is just going to support them as fiscal sponsors just with the grant making, it will be X amount. If, you know, you are going to be facilitating meetings or scheduling the meetings for them. So it depends on the range of the services that you are going to provide. And we will see that in the next session, right, Isis?
No, that's literally right now. You're
sorry.
getting us in. Great question, Rebecca. So I'm going to share my screen again now for our final session of this very quick 75 minutes. So this is the host and circle relationship. This is actually how the groups will be integrated into your work, the investments and the supports you're planning on offering, and what staffing looks like. So decision point 5, how much investment, both on the financial side and the in-kind side, are you as a host willing to put into the supports you offer? What actual supports will you offer? So there's 3 ways you can think about the integration of the host with the circle. So you have on the sort of far left, you have a group that is more peripherally involved. This somewhat goes to the control spectrum that we were sharing earlier, right? There might be groups that, again, just are putting their money through you as a community foundation. But other than that, they're very peripherally involved. Not a lot of supports are being offered. They're not asking for a lot. They're not expecting a lot. All the way on the other side, you have really active integration. And this might be more like what some of you are talking about of having more control over what the circle looks like or decides. And then the integrated approach is somewhere in the middle again, where it might be something where you're, you're offering a certain level of support, but that level of support is commensurate with what you feel comfortable offering as a host, given your other complexity as an organization and all of those things. So think about how, like, the level of which integration that you want to do there. In terms of the actual types of support, there's 5 that we see most common here. Number 1 is the financial and admin side. So those would be things like actually hosting the dollars, right? Are you setting up a DAF for that circle? Or what is the actual fiscal responsibility of moving the money, making the grants out the door, all of that. On the membership side, these are things like helping to increase membership, do outreach to other folks in the community, connect other individual members into the circle to join, helping on all of the membership related pieces. On the grant making, are you actually going to help folks literally make their grants? Are you going to help them come up with a docket of potential nonprofits in the area? Are you going to help them understand what it looks like to do vetting and due diligence? Or are you going to give them all of the groups that you already support as a community foundation and have the group pick from those? So there's many different ways to think about grant making. Giving circles often hold events. That's how people come together, whether they are there, discussing their values over pizza and wine, or it's a huge 300-person party like the Asian Women Giving Circle does a comedy night every year, and they bring in one of their grantees who's a comedic artist, and it's a community event. So those are much bigger events that you can consider. And the last one is on strategic support, actually working through and talking with them around values, around issue area priority, around how large do they want to grow, around, putting on Ty hosts amazing stroll to the poll events with all of her sisters when it's election season. So what are the ways that you're actually being strategic as a circle, and how might you as host help facilitate those conversations and help them arrive at that level? And on the level of support that you might offer, we often talk about this as like the core basics. You can just pick one or two things. You're going to provide space, you're going to help them get the grants out the door, and that's it. On the other end, you might offer a full spectrum of supports for the groups that you're doing. And as you can imagine, there's a middle ground. That's what Sada was talking about, this menu of supports of maybe you offer, 5 different things, but it's really tailored to what the circle needs and what you have to offer. So our final activity for today is the fourth page of your worksheet, and it's a pretty fun activity. So imagine all of these different colored things as Post-it notes, and what you would do on your own version of this is you would pick one of them up. So let's say it was on the financial and admin one, providing admin and back office support. Move that actual Post-it into the green box if you're like, yeah, we can do that. We can offer that support. I would like to do that. Move it into the red box if you're like, no, there's no way we're going to, I don't know, provide meeting space or help with conflict resolution, right? Like, what are the things that are just firm no's for you? And then put it in the orange box if you're still thinking and considering, maybe we could do that. I would have to talk to our events team or our logistics staff or our grant making team to see what might be possible there. So we're trying to make this really concrete for you all to actually look at the many different ways you can provide support and then start bucketing that out. So we're almost at time, so I'm only going to give you maybe 2 or 3 minutes for this final activity, and we want a little bit of time to close out our first session. So Kelsey, one quick, short, beautiful song for this, and we'll close us out. Okay, we're going to come back together. Thank you, Kelsey, for the tunes. Would love to hear another 1 or 2 folks. Was it easy to move the Post-its? Did you know exactly where they would go in the green, yellow, and red? Or was it hard for you? Anything surprising? 1 or 2 folks want to share?
Hey, this is Jamie Raspberry in Mississippi. I am driving, so I'm not able to do the activity, but I had a question related to that last section. What does it look like if you have a community foundation that hosts their own giving circle, but they can also serve as a fiscal agent for other giving circles? And is there complexity in that? Is there, is it, I just want to make sure that that's an option, and how a community foundation would manage that, because they would be promoting their own giving circle, but they'd also be serving as a fiscal agent for possibly some others. I'm just curious if anybody has encountered that, or what your recommendations would be if that is something that we see could potentially happen.
Thanks for that question, Jamie. That goes back to our very first slide with the 5 successful building blocks. Number 1 is clarity. It's totally fine to do that as long as you are abundantly clear with what your core circle is offering versus where you're just the fiscal agent. Because even if you think you're being clear, the circles on the ground might be like, oh, well, why are they getting that and we're not getting that? And members in the circle might not understand those differences between them. And so you just really need to think through how you're going to be abundantly clear. Maybe you're naming them different things. Maybe there's different ways through your communications with all of the members, not just the leaders, that you're describing those differences so that there isn't confusion there. I don't know any off the top of my head that do that, but I'm sure that there are ones out there. I don't know, Sada and Ty, any that come to mind for you?
I'm thinking I cannot, pinpoint a specific example, but it's totally doable. Like, at the end, it's not a competition, right? Like there's so many, like there are community foundations that host many giving circles and may offer um, different kinds of or levels of support for each of those circles. So I think it's totally possible, and happy to. I'll think more of a specific example, Jamie, and give it to you next time.
Same, I got you, Jamie.
Awesome. So we only have a minute left, 2 minutes left, maybe one more person. Anyone else want to share a reflection on this activity? Was it helpful for you to actually see real life stats and how to consider moving them about? Okay, good. See lots of head nodding there. Well, I'm going to share our final literal 2 slides of this presentation, which is maybe the most important slide of all, which is that you are not alone in this. And we are very excited to continue helping you on your journey. We still have a whole other session, right, in 2 weeks on the 26th. But Ty, I'm going to pass it to you to talk about what a one-on-one looks like for you.
Yeah. So first off, I love one-on-ones. One-on-ones are so great, y'all, because then we can just talk. We can talk more specifically in more detail about your dreams and hopes, desires, challenges. We can troubleshoot all the things. And they're just very effective in that way for us to like really, really make everything that you learned today real for you. And that's what we want this to be. We don't want this to be in theory. And I'll love to just share my experience. One, as just, you know, with what we've been doing here at Philanthropy Together, but then also just as a member, as a leader of a Giving Circle myself, that has worked closely with the Community Foundation. And so I'll drop my link. And you can, I should say this, Jim is on here. He's one of our another person that has went through our programs, and we've had several one-on-ones. So don't be shy. Sometimes it takes more than one-on-one for us to really, you know, kind of get you all in motion, and I'm okay with that. So I'm going to share my link in the chat, and y'all schedule away. Get on my calendar, and let's talk a little bit more beyond this training today and the one on June 26th, so you can schedule out.
Thank you, Ty, for sharing that. So that's what we've got for today. We hope you found this helpful and informative. We hope that you found the activities like actually tangibly useful to get you one step ahead. Please come back in 2 weeks for our second session. We'll have a real life speaker where you can ask tangible questions to. We'll have 2 more activities. Sneak peek, they're already in your deck. You can start working on them. And we would really encourage you to go back with these actual activities to the other people on your team, your leadership, your program person, and work through them together. This is where you can actually think about these details and start planning out your circle. Lots more next time. Thank you all for coming here and being a part of this. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you so much, CFLeads, for having us.
Thank you, everybody.